How to be silently attractive. 11 socially attractive habits. Habit 1. Embrace your authentic independence. Have you ever met someone who didn't need the room's attention, yet somehow owned it? Someone who wasn't loud, didn't over-explain, but whose presence made you straighten your posture? What if their secret wasn't charisma, but a quiet kind of independence that said, "I'm enough, even when I'm alone"? That's the energy of authentic independence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't walk into a room hoping to be accepted. It walks in already complete. There's a quiet revolution happening, away from the noise, away from the scroll, away from the desperate chase for likes, applause, or approval. It's found in those who are no longer trying to prove themselves, because they've already built themselves. The Stoics understood. Freedom is not found in escape. It's found in alignment. When your actions follow your values, when your peace no longer depends on who agrees with you, that's when independence stops being a lifestyle and starts being your nature. Authentic independence isn't arrogance. It's not about cutting people off or going it alone just to seem strong. It's about choosing to stand on your own because you've made peace within. So when you connect with others, it's from fullness, not from lack. People feel this. They sense it when you're not performing. They respect it when your confidence isn't volume, but stillness. And they admire it when your happiness doesn't waver depending on who's watching. To build this habit, start asking yourself, am I living a life I chose or one I inherited? Do I feel whole alone, or do I use others to fill what I haven't faced? Can I sit in silence without reaching for distraction? Because when you begin answering those questions with honesty, something shifts. You no longer chase. You no longer explain. You walk into the world not louder, but clearer, not bolder, but deeper. And that kind of presence, calm, self-led, whole, is the most attractive kind of all. That's the thing about people who are truly independent. They don't tell you they're strong. They don't have to. You can feel in how they move, in how they speak with fewer words but more weight, in how they don't flinch when misunderstood, because they stopped needing permission a long time ago. The Stoics lived this deeply. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire, yet still wrote reminders to himself daily to detach from praise and blame. He knew even the throne couldn't protect your peace if your identity depended on the crowd. And Epictetus? He had nothing, no wealth, no title, not even freedom at first, but he said, "You may fetter my leg, but my mind, not even Zeus can conquer that." Because real power isn't what you own, it's what you no longer need. Independence, in its purest form, is not rebellion. It's not isolation, it's clarity. It's moving through the world with your values intact, regardless of who's watching, clapping, or judging. You want to be silently attractive? Stop explaining your every choice. Stop posting every success. Stop watering down your truth so it fits someone else's comfort. Instead, spend time alone, not to escape the world, but to understand yourself. Build routines that nourish you, not perform for anyone else. Make decisions that reflect who you're becoming, not who you're trying to impress. Because the moment you stop needing people to agree, they start to respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you became the kind of person who never needed it in the first place. That's authentic independence. That's stoic magnetism, the kind that doesn't ask for attention, the kind that earns it silently. Habit 2. Master the art of silent elegance. Why do some people turn heads when they enter a room without saying a word? Why does their presence linger even after they've left? What if the most powerful form of attraction is restraint? We often confuse elegance with luxury. Cars, clothes, curated perfection. But true elegance has nothing to do with wealth. It's a way of moving through the world that whispers instead of shouts, that invites curiosity instead of begging for attention. And in a noisy world, quiet confidence is irresistible. Silent elegance is what happens when intention meets self-respect. It's the pause before you speak. It's the way your energy enters the room before your voice does. It's not about dressing up. It's about showing up with presence. The Stoics weren't interested in appearances. They were interested in essence, in substance over style. They believed a person should speak less but mean more, act less flashy but move with weight. Seneca once wrote, "We should look for someone to eat and drink with before looking for something to eat and drink." Meaning, connection isn't about performance, it's about quiet dignity, realness, poise. So what does silent elegance look like in practice? It's in your posture. It's in how you hold eye contact, not to dominate, but to connect. It's in how you listen, not impatiently waiting to reply, but fully present. It's in how you walk away when the room turns toxic, without a scene, without a word. It's also in your words, how few you use, and how deeply they land. You don't need to be flashy when your character speaks louder than your style. You don't need to overshare when your stillness already reveals depth. And the best part? Silent elegance isn't something you chase. It's something you cultivate. Through discipline, through self-awareness, through the quiet decision to live with grace, even when no one's watching. To develop this habit, speak only when your words add weight. Don't rush to fill silence. Let it stretch. Move with intention. Sit with ease. Breathe like time is yours. Because when you no longer need to convince anyone of your worth, you begin to radiate something rare, something timeless, something unforgettable. That's silent elegance, and it speaks louder than charm ever could. Habit 3. Be calm under pressure. When chaos hits, most people react, but some remain still. They don't flinch, they don't fumble, they slow down when the world speeds up. And that stillness, that's what makes them unforgettable. There's a reason calm people feel powerful. It's not because they're emotionless. It's because they've trained themselves not to be controlled by emotion. In the storm, they become the anchor. While others panic, they observe. While others blame, they adapt. While others raise their voice, they lower their breath. That kind of calm doesn't happen by accident. It's built, tested, forged in uncomfortable moments, until it becomes who you are. The Stoics didn't seek an easy life. They sought strength for any life. Marcus Aurelius faced war, plague, betrayal, and still wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's not just philosophy. That's a roadmap for inner mastery, because pressure reveals what practice hides. And if you haven't trained your nervous system to breathe through stress, then pressure will expose you. But when you've practiced pausing before reacting, when you've conditioned yourself to observe before responding, suddenly you become the rare presence people seek when everything feels unstable. So how do you build this kind of calm? Start with the breath. Train it. Deepen it. Own it. Because when the breath stays low, the mind stays high. Next, master your inner dialogue. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What's mine to control here? What part of this is emotion and what part is truth?" And finally, remember this. You don't have to prove your power. Your calmness is your power. Because people trust those who stay composed. They listen to those who don't rush. They admire those who stay grounded, even when the ground shakes. That's how you stand out without shouting. That's how you lead without titles. That's how you become magnetic, by being the person who brings peace into pressure, not through noise, but through stillness. Habit 4. Speak less, mean more. Some speak endlessly and say nothing. Others speak rarely and shift the entire room. What if your real power isn't in how much you say, but in how much weight your words carry? In a world addicted to noise, there's something unforgettable about someone who speaks with restraint, not out of fear, not out of passivity, but because they know every word shapes perception. And true strength isn't about saying more, it's about needing less. The Stoics believed speech should serve truth, not ego. They trained themselves not to react emotionally, but to respond with clarity. They didn't flood conversations to dominate. They entered slowly and spoke like every syllable mattered. There's something powerful about a person who doesn't fill silence just to avoid discomfort. Someone who pauses before speaking. Someone who listens, not just to answer, but to understand. That's not silence from weakness. It's silence born of discipline. Seneca wrote, "Speech is to be valued not by the number of words, but by their substance. Because the world doesn't need more volume, it needs more meaning." And here's the paradox. When you speak less, people listen more. Your words become rarer, more intentional, more respected. So how do you build this habit? Start by speaking only when it adds value. Resist the urge to fill the air. When you speak, speak from grounded thought, not emotional reaction. Train yourself to pause before responding, especially in conflict. Ask questions before offering opinions. Observe more than you interrupt. Because each time you choose presence over performance, your words begin to hold weight. Not just in what you say, but in what you don't need to say. When you speak, people will feel it. Not because you're loud, but because you've said what needed to be said. And nothing more in that discipline, that restraint, that presence, that's magnetic. That's stoic. That's the sound of someone whose silence says more than most people's speeches. Habit 5. Cultivate powerful eye contact. Some people speak without opening their mouth. Some conversations begin with a single glance. And sometimes the most commanding presence in the room is the one who holds your gaze without fear, without force, just truth. Eye contact is more than social skill. It's spiritual posture. It tells the world, I'm present, I see you, and I'm not afraid to be seen. But most people avoid it. They look away. They glance down. They dart side to side. Why? Because real eye contact demands courage. It strips away pretense. It reveals exactly who's grounded and who's still hiding. The Stoics taught that truth is found in stillness, not just the stillness of action, but of gaze. A steady gaze is a steady mind. It shows confidence without aggression, clarity without arrogance. It says, I'm not here to intimidate. I'm here to connect. I have nothing to prove, just something to be. Think of eye contact as presence made visible. You're not just watching someone, you're meeting them. You're saying, I'm here with you, fully. And here's the key. Real eye contact doesn't chase approval. It radiates awareness. To practice this habit, begin by holding eye contact with yourself in the mirror. Not to fix, but to face. In conversation, slow your blink. Let silence breathe. Let connection deepen. Avoid the urge to dominate. Eye contact isn't a contest, it's an invitation. And when used correctly, it does something subtle but undeniable. It grounds the other person. It calms the room. It creates a field of trust without saying a single word. That's the kind of presence people remember, the kind they lean into, the kind that doesn't demand attention because it already has it. Powerful eye contact isn't loud, but it's never forgotten. Habit 6. Move with intention, not hesitation. Have you ever watched someone enter a room, and without saying a word, everyone noticed? Not because they rushed, not because they demanded, but because they moved with quiet certainty. What if your most magnetic trait isn't how fast you move, but how deliberate you are with every step? In a world addicted to speed, the calm mover stands out. They don't fidget. They don't second guess. They flow because their mind and their body are in agreement. Every movement measured, every gesture intentional, every presence anchored. This is the essence of Stoic motion. You don't rush because the world is rushing. You don't overreact because others are chaotic. You move from center, not from pressure. The Stoics trained themselves to pause before they moved, to act with thought, not impulse, because movement without direction is distraction, and speed without clarity is noise. To move with intention is to treat your body as an extension of your values. When you walk with purpose. When you sit, you settle with ease. When you gesture, you're not begging attention. You're making your message cleaner, sharper, more grounded, and people notice. Even if they can't name it, they feel it. Your energy speaks before you do. So how do you build this habit? Slow your transitions. Don't rush from task to task. Walk like time belongs to you. Eliminate jitter. Let your hands rest. Let your spine align. Let your presence settle. When you enter a room, don't arrive. Arrive with intention. One deep breath, one grounded step. That's all it takes, because hesitation signals doubt. Over-movement signals anxiety. But clean, clear, calm motion, that signals command. You don't have to stomp to be seen. You don't have to pose to be remembered. You just have to move like every motion is backed by purpose. Because when your actions are rooted in awareness, you carry quiet power that needs no introduction. Habit 7. Hold your own space. Why do some people shrink when others enter the room, while others expand without ever raising their voice? Why do some constantly adjust themselves to fit in, while others stand still and the room adjusts to them? What if your true presence isn't about taking up more space, but about owning the space you already stand in? This is what it means to hold your own space, to exist without apology, to stand without shrinking, to belong without asking permission. Most people seek permission silently. They apologize through body language. They fold their shoulders. They avoid eye contact. They wait for validation before they feel allowed to be. But not the Stoic. The Stoic walks into a room and brings his peace with him. He does not demand to be the center, he simply refuses to be erased. Holding your space is not aggression. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It says, this is who I am. I don't need to over-explain. I don't need to outperform. I am not the loudest, but I'm not leaving myself behind to please anyone here. The Stoics believed that presence was power, that if you are rooted in yourself, the world can swirl around you and you remain still. Not stubborn, still. And stillness speaks. So how do you cultivate this rare habit? First, become aware of how often you shrink, physically, emotionally, energetically. Then reclaim your space. Stand tall, shoulders back, chin neutral, breath steady. When you speak, speak from your diaphragm, not your throat. Let your voice come from center, not from tension. Don't rush to fill awkward silence. Let others move, let them react. You remain grounded. Because when you hold your own space, you tell the world, I know who I am. I respect your presence, but I won't abandon mine. And the irony? People respect you more. They trust your energy. They feel safer near you because you feel safe within yourself. This is the mark of quiet strength. This is how leaders walk. This is how the Stoic holds ground. Not to dominate, but to remain undisturbed. Habit 8. Be comfortable with silence. Why do most people fear silence as if it's something to fix? Why do they reach for words, noise, distractions when quiet enters the room? What if the ability to sit calmly in silence is the rarest social power of all? Silence isn't empty. It's not awkward. It's not weakness. It's presence. Uninterrupted. In a world that rushes to speak, silence is the ultimate filter. It reveals insecurity. It exposes discomfort. And for the rare few who have trained themselves to sit in it, it reveals confidence. The Stoics understood this. Words don't make you wise. Stillness does. Because when you're at peace within, you don't need to fill the air. You become the air that settles others down. Being comfortable with silence means you're not performing. You're not anxiously proving your worth with chatter. You're not afraid of what happens when attention turns to stillness. You welcome it. You trust it. You live in it. Let's be honest. Most people talk because they're afraid of being seen too clearly. But silence? Silence makes you visible in the most powerful way. Unmasked, unrushed, undistracted. So how do you build comfort in silence? First, practice it alone. No phone, no background noise, just presence. Let it stretch. Then, take that same stillness into conversation. Listen longer. Let silence land after your words. Don't rush to fill gaps. Let them breathe. Watch what happens. Others lean in. The energy slows down. And you, without saying much, become the calm center they didn't know they needed. Here's the truth. Anyone can talk. Very few can hold silence without flinching. And those who can, they don't just attract attention. They command respect. Be the one who doesn't run from silence. Be the one who embodies it. Because sometimes the loudest message is the one no one dares to say. Habit 9. Project warmth without needing to please. Is it possible to be kind without being soft? Can you radiate warmth without needing to be liked? What if your true strength isn't found in distance, but in presence that doesn't bend for approval? There's a myth in modern culture that to be powerful, you must be cold. That detachment equals dominance. That sharp edges earn more respect than open hands. But the truth is, real presence is both grounded and open. It's calm but never cold. It's kind but not performative. It offers warmth, not because it needs to be accepted, but because it's already whole. The Stoics never taught us to shut down emotionally. They taught us to master emotion so we could express it wisely, not recklessly. Warmth is a choice, not a weakness. It says, I see you, I respect you, but I won't contort myself to be accepted by you. Because when you radiate kindness without needing validation, you become rare. You give without begging. You connect without clinging. You smile, not to gain approval, but because it's aligned with who you are. So how do you live this balance? Begin by noticing your motivation when you're kind. Is it rooted in generosity or fear of rejection? Detach your warmth from outcome. Give energy because it reflects you, not because it earns something, and most of all, learn to say no with love. Boundaries can be delivered with softness and still be firm. The world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more self-led, souls who offer light without draining themselves to keep others warm. And when you live this way, something shifts. You stop chasing admiration. You start commanding respect, not through dominance, but through dignity. Be approachable, be warm, but never beg to belong. Habit 10. Lead with subtle confidence. What if leadership didn't require a spotlight, just presence? What if true confidence didn't shout, but shaped the room quietly? And what if your power wasn't in proving you're enough, but in knowing you already are? Confidence today is often confused with performance. A louder voice, a firmer handshake, a carefully curated presence. But the most magnetic people don't lead by flash, they lead by foundation. They don't announce their confidence, they don't compete for attention. They don't need to be the smartest, funniest, or most dominant person in the room. They lead through still certainty. Not the kind that needs approval, but the kind built on deep internal alignment. The Stoics modeled this form of leadership. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule by force, he ruled by clarity. He journaled every day not to appear wise to others, but to remain honest with himself. That's subtle confidence, the kind rooted not in display but in discipline. So how do you build it? Start by honoring your word to yourself. Nothing builds inner strength like self-integrity. Stop over-explaining. Confident people don't justify every move. They act, then let the results speak. Step into rooms knowing you belong, not because of titles or ego, but because you bring grounded energy. Subtle confidence moves differently. It's not loud, but it lasts. It doesn't seek control, but somehow everything calms around it. It doesn't dominate space, but somehow owns it through ease. When you embody this, people notice. They lean in. They follow your pace. They seek your opinion not because you push it, but because your energy says, "I've done the work. I don't need to prove it." True leadership doesn't demand, it magnetizes. And subtle confidence is the quiet current that moves everything forward. Habit 11. Be unbothered by external validation. What if the world's opinion of you no longer moved you? What if applause and criticism both lost their grip because your worth was no longer up for debate? And what if freedom wasn't found in being admired, but in no longer needing to be? We live in a time of constant eyes, comments, likes, follows. Every move watched, every opinion offered. And slowly, subtly, you begin to shape your identity around what gets accepted. But here's the truth the Stoics held close. What others think of you is none of your business. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned to center your compass internally. The danger of external validation is that it's addictive. It feels good until you need it. Then suddenly, your joy is rented. Your peace is conditional. Your identity becomes a reaction. But when you reclaim your sense of self, when you decide that your integrity, your clarity, your values are more important than approval, you become untouchable, not arrogant, not isolated, just centered. The Stoics didn't seek admiration. They sought alignment. They lived in accordance with principle, not popularity. Seneca said, "I do not care what people think of me, for I am who I am and not what they think I am." And that's the liberation we forget is possible. To build this habit, take time daily to reflect. Did I act from truth or from image? Stop oversharing. Keep some victories sacred. Let your life speak more than your feed. When praise comes, receive it with humility. When critique comes, filter it with reason, not emotion. And remember, you don't owe the world a version of yourself it can applaud. You owe yourself truth. Because the most quietly powerful people are not the ones who need to be seen. They are the ones who remain themselves whether seen or not. Be grounded in your own approval, and the world will adjust. Not because you asked it to, but because you stopped asking it at all. If these reflections stirred something in you, a quiet strength, a sense of calm, a voice you forgot you had, then this space was made for you. At Stoic Zen, we don't chase attention, we cultivate presence. We don't seek to impress, we seek to align, not louder, just truer, not faster, just deeper. If you found something of value here, a sentence, a silence, a shift, Consider subscribing, not to follow more, but to remember more of who you already are. Stay silent, stay steady, stay stoic. We're walking this path with you.